We are on a mission to save and revitalize independent pharmacy.
On the Catalyst Pharmacy podcast, you'll get actionable business advice.
Hear stories from industry leaders.
And share a laugh or two with us.
Fuel your passion for pharmacy.
One conversation at a time.
As far as reasons why for the medical billing, in addition to the great reasons you guys mentioned, the commercialization of the COVID vaccines. So it's going to be private payers that are going to be paying for a lot of those of the COVID vaccine. Still have some government involvement, but a lot less. And having, I think we want, as pharmacy, we want to bill as many times as we can to the medical side versus the PBM. Because we know what happens when we bill through the PBM.
Right.
Yep.
And it's not good.
Yep.
So that's another reason for it. The other thing, and this can incite some competitive juices, but when we look at our competitors, CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, and really the health insured owned PBMs, this is where they're going. One announcement after another, even Amazon buying the telehealth company recently, they're all going into primary care. I talked about it at Connect, but it's not a secret. That's where.
And you know how they're doing it? They're doing it with technologies that's at least 30 years old. And so I think that's one of our arguments or beliefs is. Not only should we be doing it, but we should be doing it with technology that enables the independents to have as much configurability and automation as they can through it. And frankly, they'll be at an advantage over any chain. There's no chain that's investing in new architecture like we are right now. They're not.
Yeah, and no chain is getting the kind of results in these programs running like we are. Not even close.
Not even close.
It was a funny story. We do some programs, some sponsored programs that give the pharmacy some money to do some extra counseling to help. And he was analyzing on this particular drug an uptake of it looks like that we were doing 10% better adherence than the other pharmacy management systems. He's like, oh, this was interesting. So y'all must have done this program better. But then he got a little sad because he looked back and our pharmacies in general do about 10% better on adherence than other people on other pharmacy systems do. And whether that's the software or whether that's the kind of people that our software tracks, I think there's probably a combination of the two.
Well,
but that's what a difference 10%
too.
makes to the profitability of a pharmacy and the health of its patients.
Well, and we saw the same kind of thing with CPSN as they said, okay, well, how's this pharmacy submitting so many care plans? And it's like, it just does it. You sync this patient and it just sends it.
When we were looking at the shingles program, we were asking the manufacturer, what's great? Jeff and Marsha and I, we like goals.
Yeah.
It's like hanging a bone in front of me. I just chase it. And like, hey, if you guys can complete if the pharmacist can complete 20% of the care goals and deliver education on 46 or 6% of that, that's awesome. That's what we see in industry. Mm-hmm. And we delivered 83% and 50%. That's because of how it's integrated into workflow and how we're triggering it at the point of sale and those types of things that Pioneer continues to innovate on. We're proud to say not all are created equal.
And how did those dollars? So in those examples, which is great. I'm always impressed to see the performance of independent pharmacies, even after all these years. Proud of it too. How do those dollars flow to the pharmacy? So in that example with the manufacturer, in what form do they get back to the pharmacy, and what other opportunities are there like that for them to generate revenue, obviously for your company, but to generate revenue for the pharmacies?
Yeah. So if you take a vaccine, the way that gets back to the pharmacy is 50% more vaccines, right? So or in primary adherence, all we're doing is delivering education content. So education content, we'll say, hey, we'll do the work to create the education content and deliver it through our platform. And what we get out of that is much happier customers. What the pharmacy gets out of that is 10% more script volume coming through. And that's where the real economic value is to be made in these programs. And we've got to do a good job of helping pharmacies understand that if you're taking your or your medical billing from 0% of your total revenue to 15%, and you don't have to deal with DIR fees on that, that's a huge deal. That's where the economic value is for you, and that's why you should put the time into e-care plans as an example.
Yeah. So there are certain areas, and to carry on to that, there are certain areas where, like the PDR programs we talk about, where the pharmacists document that there is a direct when they educate the patient. We'll get that on sometimes complex devices that have to be cleaned or something like that. The pharmacy will get an extra payment to do additional training than they would normally do, right?
Yep. It's called enhanced services.
Enhanced services
you're allowed to remunerate for enhanced services legally, and it's not considered an enhanced service. You're not allowed to legally.
Yeah. So there's some place you can reimburse the pharmacy. There's some place where legally you can't, and so we do where we can. We do where we can't. We try to make sure that we're doing programs that help the pharmacy be more successful through doing more vaccines.
Yeah, so I think, and we touched on it a little bit the last podcast, and honestly, I hear it in a lot of different meeting settings that I'm in, that, you know, pharma has the money, and so we need to figure out ways to partner with them, and it's interesting the different settings where I hear pharma has the money. I feel, in some respects, I'm like, man, pharma only has so many taps, you know, because everyone, it seems like it wants to tap into pharma money. I think for the independent pharmacy, especially, Kraig, the stats you mentioned as far as the lift in adherence, we've got a real viable reason why pharmaceutical manufacturers would want to partner with community pharmacies.
I will tell you, this is, as we're working with manufacturers, this is new information for manufacturers. Total candor, one of our biggest challenges early on was getting manufacturers to listening to us, because when they heard independent pharmacy, their answer was too hard, not enough return on my marketing dollars. It's just too hard. When you explain them, well, really all you have to do is access the technology network. You don't need to go contract with everybody. And we've got new technology, so we can show you the effectiveness rate across the whole network. You don't need to go get it from every individual pharmacy. We can show you the effectiveness across the program. That's the way you drive this. Pharma just wants to put their dollars where they get the higher return. It's not, and so we have to show them that there's a higher return here. That's on all of us to do. If you want the manufacturers to spend more money in this segment, we've got to show them that we're more effective with data.
Yeah, and in the future, that means if you want limited distribution drugs, we have to be better than the next person, and we have to have huge investments in technology in order to do that. And that's where you're going to see this term, a technology integrated network. You're going to have these successes that we talked about, 60% rather than 25%. That's because of a technology integrated network. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to mean the same pharmacy system. It could be, one of those things you encourage CPSN to say, hey, these are some minimal standards for the technology to be part of our CPSN technically integrated network, right? To be a pharmacy system that we put our badge on, you've got to have these qualities, and a care goal is not enough. Being able to submit a care goal is not enough. It's how it changes the workflow of the system, how you have measured success. But in the end,
how you get educated and trained on utilization of that. One of the things we're seeing was a vast degree of standard deviation on efficiency and how they're using those tools. And so we started investing in a clinical education team to help kind of scale it now as well.
So, but to be transparent, pharma dollars are very hard to get all the way down to pharmacy. Okay, there's a lot of rules about steering and things like that make it very hard. Those dollars need to be spent on making technology better and in education and that kind of stuff. Now, payer dollars are much easier to get down to pharmacy. And that's where CPSN is, and that's where we're helping CPSN get that piece down to the pharmacy. There are some blends where we can do some finagling, where Pharma can pay for filling out a form or taking a survey or something like that. But we have to be creative.
And we've got to be careful. I mean, we get this question all the time, are we going to remunerate for everything if we've got a relationship with Pharma? No, not on everything, because I don't look good in orange, right? So when you take vaccines, you're going to be really careful with how we're structuring that, because the laws are complex and not in our favor for it. It is much cleaner for us to make sure we're building the technology solution and can show the increase in revenue on that type of a program, and saying, hey, we're going to give you $3 for every time you do that. That gets a little bit wishy-washy.
Well,
and how we can
to
do that.
reiterate, to really put down, in order for us to do these programs, we needed the new ownership. We needed RedSail, because coming at these pharma companies with, hey, we have 5,000 pharmacies, but now we can come at them with, we have 10,000 pharmacies. Let's build this program. And we've already had a couple of successes that are picking up off the ground.
But what you can do, though, is take $3 and pay for text messages to go out, reminder messages to go out to the patients, right? So, and those text messages tell, hey, you guys who are in this situation, go, it's time to get this filled, right? And then the pharmacy is making more money by making more people healthier, by providing more services.
And like I said, we needed RedSail and us needed to come together, and we needed their ownership, and their guidance is, we've had a couple of successes, and hopefully we can continue to, well, not hopefully, but we are going to continue to reach out to these pharma companies and basically show them that, hey, we can help pharmacy grow and make your marketing dollars worth it, as Kraig would say.
An independent pharmacy matters. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. And I think the more education, the more explanation to independent pharmacy owners about the kickback laws and the limitations and the education, because as you know, they're on the front lines. They're the ones doing the work, and they're like, they feel like this a lot. Someone else is making money off my back while I'm busting my tail. So I think the more it can be explained, here's the opportunities where you can plug in, here's the opportunities where the laws are not in our favor. Yep. I think that's going to be helpful to them to.
Yeah, you saw a recent court rule that promoing a refill was steering. Crazy.
Yeah.
I think
really
one of the pharma companies sued to say, hey, we believe that promoting a refill isn't steering, and the court said it is. It's crazy. So we need to change some laws too, Doug.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I'll get right on that.
It's not steering; it's life and death.
I know you got a short list there beside you.
I want to talk about pivot just a little bit. It's really on the subject that we've been talking about, and that's workflow. And also, I get the other macro theme that we haven't said the words. Jeff, you've heard these words in the NCPA Innovation Center board meetings, is making it easy to work with independents. And whether that's Pioneer or other companies, and certainly NCPA theme is we've got to figure out we independent pharma, capital I, capital P, independent pharmacy have to make it easy to work with independents, because. And Kraig, you mentioned it on the last podcast. I think you may have mentioned it on this one, that a manufacturer is not going to sign 10,000 contracts.
No,
not.
The federal government is not going to sign 10,000 contracts. And we saw that with the distribution of the COVID vaccine. And that's where, and I've heard it first from Kurt Proctor on my team, of we've got to make it easy to work with independents. And I think that could be maybe, a T-shirt slogan. So workflow is one way to do that.
Technology integration.
Mm-hmm.
Technology integration into the workflow.
Yep.
Absolutely. Because we've seen solutions come to independent pharmacies all the time, but if it's not built into workflow, its chances of getting scale are probably less than 5%.
Yep. We agree.
So great example from a few months ago of getting a message into workflow. So I mentioned I wanted to touch on the contract provision
Yep.
restricting bulk purchases from our good friends at Aetna CVS. And Pioneer, you guys put a message. So when the contract was going into effect, and the pharmacies had gotten the contract, but who has time to read these 40 pages of legalese? You guys prompted the user to have to take action, and that resulted in a huge response. Can you may have, if you've covered this on a previous podcast, my apologies, you may have, but can you kind of describe what you did and what happened?
What we did was we created an alert that when they filled a prescription for CareMart and they hadn't ordered it within 30 days, right? We told them, hey, you may be at risk. You might ought to hold this and order it again tonight before you fill it, that you may be at risk for this section. And that got that information out to a whole lot of people at once, create a whole lot of phone calls. I got a call from our friends at CVS Aetna the next day asking me if I would turn it off, saying they had gotten calls from multiple senators, people, heads of pharmacy associations all across the country. And I know we said this, but that's really not what we meant, right? We really meant to do this. And that's typical what lawyers do, right? When they want X, they ask for X plus infinity, so that when they get in court and they get dialed back, they can get the X that they're after.
So there was a change. The change was better. The thing that caught my attention there, because we, NCPA, we don't do the contract negotiations and we don't contract. We had seen it and notified folks about this provision with alarm, but we didn't have a way to put it in workflow. I mean, we can send something out to a member, and we do that all the time. So what got my attention on this was, again, the pharmacists were able to get a message, or their technicians, by the way, were able to get a message in workflow.
A disruptive message.
Yeah.
And they acted.
Yeah.
And it excites me because when I think if we had 10,000, because there's about 10,000 pharmacy owners that own the 20,000 pharmacies. Latest Digest stats show that the average owner owns 2.1 pharmacies.
Okay.
So just mathematically, that's about 10,000 humans that own the 20,000 pharmacies.
Okay.
So our job is to get 10,000 people to do something. If we can get 10,000 people to do something, the power of independent pharmacy would be 20x what it is today.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
Because typically it's about 500 to 1,000 people that are really passionate and or not really passionate, but really passionate enough to take action. So all that to say, what are some other opportunities that in workflow that you see, whether it's, this was more, it wasn't political, it wound up some political outcomes, some political action was taken, but what are some other opportunities that you guys see in workflow that could, cause pharmacies to take action? Again, not necessarily political, but other areas.
I think what was interesting about this was not only the number of people, but the number of people at one time. I think when you say 500,000 people, Doug, and you send something out and maybe over 30 days, 500 or 1,000 people do something, even that 500,000, if you could say, hey, the timer starts at this time and we want everybody to act between this hour and this hour on this day, right? And it could all happen at once. I think that amplifies the impact 1,000 times, right? And so you could do things like that in workflow, say, hey, this event is coming up, where you actually notify them within the pharmacy system of something, and that it has a time and a date, and you remind them again, hey, it's now, and you show a countdown, and you actually drive them doing some type of activism together, just by using the tool that they work in every day to tell them to do that, to time it, to say you have you know, you have 2 hours to complete this thing and show a countdown. And
Chip, I don't know how far you want to go with a futures discussion, but I mean, I think we're working in Pioneer on a few things that over the next several months that are going to launch are going to make communication dramatically faster in workflow and across pharmacy and across stakeholders that we could leverage for that. But that may be
I think we talked about that a little bit last time. Is that we're developing a freemium communication service. Imagine a Slack or Teams for independent pharmacy or for pharmacy, where you have a directory automatically pharmacy to pharmacy, and then you have an NCPA channel and you have a thing like that. And so we've spent about $1 million so far developing this freemium product that's going to try to communicate people for this exact thing, for quicker activism, for pharmacies working together, because email has gotten to be ineffective. And like CPSN is not going to build a Slack channel with their 4,000 pharmacies. So we need a tool to do those things, and we're working on a tool for that. And we're going to have a base product that doesn't cost anything and that has additional things you can add on that are patient-related and stuff that will cost, or that if there's some partner that gets a lot of value out of it, that we build APIs and stuff. But the base product to do exactly the kind of things you're doing is in the works, and we'll hopefully roll it out early next year.
Yeah, so that's a lot more detail than we mentioned the last time. You mentioned something about pharmacies being able to communicate, but that's a lot more. So would you envision this as commonly owned pharmacies being able to communicate together, like in a community?
Nope.
About,
anybody.
Anybody.
I can just add somebody to a group. Now, of course, they could block me, but what a Slack or something like that is missing is a directory. And so what we're going to be able to do is anybody who's in this group, who's signed on to this product, you'll be able to talk to. And so you can imagine one of the things on our mind, NCPA channel, where imagine if you could, just with 6,000 PioneerRx pharmacies, right? If you as Doug could send out something that popped up in workflow, just like they had gotten a message from a patient or a message from another member of their team that says, hey, this thing's important. Now, you're going to have to be judicious with that resource, or be kind, because if you're too much to it, they're just going to mute you, right?
It becomes white noise, yeah.
Right. But if you're smart about how you use that, then you can build this mechanism to bring people together, right? Communication, we found from this deal with Caremark, is the key to turning on this superpower that is independent pharmacy.
Yep. Yeah, and in this case too, I also think that the looming FTC study may have actually also been helpful to getting them to listen as well.
True. Yeah, and congratulations on your work there, Doug. So appreciate that.
We're excited about that, and that this is the FTC doing a study on PBMs. I'm just looking at my phone to see if I have any. I'm hoping to have some announcement somewhat related to that, related to our convention, but I don't have the green light yet. So
okay,
just have to tease that up a little bit more. I know we're getting close to the end. I did want to share some other feedback from members. A couple members mentioned, so they're always flattering about the software. They say, hey, it's a great system, really enjoy the system. This last go around, for when I asked for comments, a couple of them mentioned, hey, I feel like for different products, I mean, I'll use their words, nickel-and-dimed, which I was trying to think of different words. I couldn't, sorry.
Yep.
But they felt like they're getting, nickel and dime for all the different services. They want this, they want that. It's going to cost this, cost that. I wanted to give you guys a chance to hear that, but also respond to that concern.
Yeah.
If you think
it's
if you agree with it or not.
When we came in to build Pioneer, we heard that about our competitors. And one of the things we did was reject it in a way. Now, the way we did that is if it's in Pioneer, we don't charge extra for it. Competitors will charge, hey, you want a long-term care module, that's more. You want point of sale, that's more. You want blank, that's more. Yeah, you want to do MedSync, that's more, that's more. So everybody had a deal, and we said, no, we're not doing that. And now that said, as you grow, you're going to build things that aren't in your primary product, or you're just going to build a pharmacy system. And we do build other things. We have mobile apps we build, and we build things that have totally different development group that could be provided by some other company. And where we build those, we charge for them. It's a different group. It needs a pay model. If you don't have a pay model, like let's say the mobile apps, there are pharmacy systems out there who give them away for free. You know what? If you've ever used them, you can tell there's no model to maintain that product because it's not any good, right? And so if you want to have a group that owns a mobile app that's totally different, and so our model is, if it's the same piece of software, we don't charge more for features in it. But if it's a totally different software in a totally different place, you download it from the Apple Store, things like mobile app or delivery or something like that, it charges more. And so you see as a company grows and they start trying to offer different products to the same group, you're going to see that. We offer a text messaging. Well, we have to pay somebody for that, right? We just can't send text messages out for free. You pay the carriers for that. That's a model that's going to have you get paid, you get charged for it. You're going to have to charge somebody for it. It's a product we didn't offer. Two-way text messaging we didn't offer 6 years ago when they signed up. So now they're doing text messaging, and we have over 4 million messages a month go out between two-way, right? Most of our competitors are only doing one-way. We have two-way messaging with our patients, which reduces phone calls, et cetera. That's a new line item. And so they're gradually seeing more line items on the piece as we offer more products. So I think anybody who said that to me, who we actually talk it through, they're like, oh, yeah, I get it. And really, I think our competitors do much worse job of trying to nickel and dime people.
And communication overall, and yes, the nickel and diming as well.
So. Do you think that if you went through those different services you just described, that a pharmacy would be able to, describe their ROIs, like the two-way text messaging, for example?
Sure.
So I mean, I'm assuming they could, but I think that'd be important for a pharmacy to say, look, I'm investing X. I need to be making X plus Y.
Right. Yeah, and that's and what you have to decide is in a module, what's that providing for you, right? The text messaging is providing improved customer experience, and it's reducing phone calls, which reduces interruptions, because I can have a text message asynchronously, right? The text message doesn't go ding, 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 ding until I answer it, right? Like the phone does. And so that asynchronous conversation allows me to have better workflow, better timing, which ought to reduce my staffing needs, right? Because I'm more efficient in my pharmacy, and therefore there's your ROI. But you have to think through that, and for different people, that's not,
And not as easy to quantify as number of prescriptions, total revenue. I mean, it could get to your bottom line, but it's a little bit harder to put an ROI number on.
But we've added messages to MedSync. Some people don't want me to call them every month. So there's a text message now that says, hey, we're preparing your prescriptions. Click here to choose which ones you want this month. And which one of your PRNs do you want? That takes them through that. That text message we charged extra for. The website that they go to make those selections, we didn't charge for. We'll roll out a click to pay. We're not going to charge extra for the click to pay where we don't get charged. And so there are a lot of things. So we consider that a module of Pioneer. So, there's, I think the approach we take is very fair in the industry and provides a lot of value to our customers.
Switching gears a little bit, Kraig, as far as Francisco Partners and as the private equity entity that owns most or all of RedSail. So one thing I'm hearing, not about Francisco Partners in particular, but just about private equity in general, is, hey, private equity has just gushing dollars for healthcare, willing to pay all kinds of multiples for EBITDA multiples. I've heard recently, in the last 3 months, 4 months, that some of those dollars, that some of the investors are getting less patient with some of these investments. And again, I'm not speaking to Francisco in particular at all, just in general. So what's the vibe you're getting from Francisco? Anything new there? from a private equity standpoint, what are you seeing, feeling with the private equity ownership?
Yeah, no. So from a private equity ownership standpoint, like I said, I've had a relationship with Francisco Partners for almost 15 years now, and no, I don't see a change. Now, partly Francisco Partners only invests in technology business. So if you're one of Francisco Partners customers, you know that's what they're investing in. They only invest in technology, almost exclusively software, and probably about 40% of the portfolio, roughly, maybe a little bit less than that now, is healthcare. And so part of that, I'm guessing, is an expectation setting exercise for Francisco Partners. As part of it is the fact that Francisco Partners has delivered good returns for their customers over the years. And so we don't see on the RedSail side any impatience. The key with private equity that I've learned is you got to get really aligned on what the 5-10 year strategy is. So a tenet to our strategy when we created RedSail was we will invest more than all of our competitors in technology development, right? Well, Francisco Partners doesn't beat us up over that because that's core to the strategy that we all created. What I hear a lot about in private equity circles right now is interest rates. Inflation and interest rates create pressure for an investor base, and so that's probably the thing that I hear the most talk about in private equity circles is, can we continue to invest in all of these sectors at the multiples we're investing in as interest rates continue to climb?
Right.
Man, if I had the answer to that one,
and for the listeners, when private equity buys something, they borrow a good amount of that money to buy it, and when money's dirt cheap, right, 0% interest rates, it's easier than as interest rates get higher.
What you'll see is, I don't think you'll see a slowing down of investment in the sector, and I'm a personal believer that if you have responsible investors, it's good, right? So I'll sit here and say, the investments we've been making in Pioneer, and we just launched this week the first cloud-based PMS system in the long-term care setting. We're in the first pilot customer. What we're doing in Powerline or with TransactRx. Not only is that good for our customers, that's good for the industry, because all of a sudden you're going to see other folks having to start to reinvest in technology platforms if they want to compete. And so I think if you have responsible investors, it's super healthy for a market. If you don't, there's examples where you don't have a healthy scenario, and we talk a lot at Francisco Partners about a barbell strategy. At the right side of the barbell is your high growth. Invest like crazy. At the left side, if you're really buying into a dog industry or a dog company, you're not going to invest. You're going to starve. And I think the key for us is we've got to align with FP that this is far more on the right side of the dumbbell, and the way you win there is to continue to invest. The scenario we talked at the beginning discussion on, core to the Pioneer success has been market leading and market setting customer support. We started to see our metrics not go where we like. That wasn't a hard discussion to tell our board, guys, we're going to overinvest. That's core to our strategy. We have to be great here.
Yeah, my part, that was about a 10-minute discussion. I said, Kraig, I want to do this. He said, yep.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't see, at my level, I don't see any of those changes from a Francisco Partner standpoint.
Yeah.
I think macroeconomics are what's scaring everybody right now.
And what's a cool takeaway from that is what you heard, and what we learned in this is these companies spend a ton of money analyzing markets. Right. Yeah. We're always in the markets being analyzed. I'm always getting LinkedIn requests to somebody getting paid to analyze this market. And the guys who are doing that believe in the future of pharmacy and are investing dollars there. So we're on that barbell that they believe this is growth. We believe in the future. Right. So if the guys who are doing all of this marketing believe in it, we should believe in it too.
Yeah, I think whether it's Francisco Partners or others, one of the things they see is 20,000 independently owned pharmacies. We know where the CVS bucket is and because what company they are. We know the Walgreens bucket. We know the Walmart pharmacy bucket, kind of. I mean, that's a small part of their overall business. But you've got these 20,000 independent pharmacies representing a $75 billion industry. What can we do here? And so I think that is key, that the entities that find, are able to put together that next best mousetrap for corralling a 20,000 pharmacy performance network that also, by the way, is in socially vulnerable populations.
Yep.
That also, by the way, provides the best service and also is probably the mayor on the school board, on the, a part of the fabric of the community. That's going to be, a winning combination. And so that's one of the things that makes these podcasts interesting to me, is to talk about, the networks, because you guys are putting together a network, a performance network.
We absolutely are.
Yep. And there is going to be a performance network. And if there's a future podcast with me involved, I'd like to get into more the confidence in that, because someone's going to put a performance network together. And as independent pharmacies, who do we trust? Because someone's going to have a lot of power if that independent pharmacy is in that network. So I think that the how do we get to trust, not so much necessarily with Pioneer, but with anyone? Yeah, because as independent pharmacists, we have a lot of, there's some trust issues well earned over the years. Mm-hmm. But anyway, lots of great stuff. If we had more time, RX Local, pharmacogenomics and specialty, continued easy to work with independents, artificial intelligence, networking. Marsha, you're on my list. I've investigated air quotes, Jeff and Kraig. And so I did a little bit of sleuthing on you, Google searches kind of stuff, not super creepy stuff, I don't think. But, Jeff still has the Ray-Ban sunglasses and the Steven Tyler concert on his Facebook page. So
he doesn't do much on Facebook. It used to be food, and I think that was the last thing he posted. Yeah, he got scolded.
Yeah, I know. We need to do these every 3 months. I could talk. Doug, we could talk for another hour. This is great. Mm-hmm. I think we should. We are running out of time, but I think we should do every 3 months. I think it's valuable. I think it's motivating. I think
it's time to move it up to every 3 months. So
I don't know. You might want to do a listener survey before you make that jump.
These are our most watched podcast. So you can take it where it is. It's the combination of the people. This is the listeners are voting with their ears and eyes.
Doug, I think we should just run with that and say it's you and I. I mean, just go with it.
Who watches these things? So I listened to 4 of them. I'm in the gym running, but I'm like, I don't know that I would sit and watch this.
Well,
and I would watch you guys, but I'm not going to watch
my 20-year-old would say I do whenever I'm in a vehicle with him.
Yeah, a lot of it is listening, but time and time again, people. I had a guy from New York come to me,
McEwen at the McEwen show.
McEwen show, and he was like, he is a.
Well, hang on, there was some greater importance behind this man that approached you.
Yeah, well,
he used to own pharmacy.
He's a state senator. And in New York, he used to own a pharmacy, sold the pharmacy, but he still works in it. And I guess he saw our orbit and said we had a podcast. He's like, what in the world could you guys talk about on a podcast? And then he was like, and I've been binge listening it now for 2 weeks. And he's like, I'm on the girl who wasn't the pharmacist, who Dad gave her the pharmacy.
Stacey
Welling. She's a marketer, Stacey Welling. Mm-hmm. And he said, I love it.
Babies.
I love it. And so here's a piece. We're reaching a state senator. We had a guy in North Carolina who reached out to us about some legislation because he listens to the podcast.
Listens to our podcast.
But a lot of it is, and you see it in the summer when people are traveling, the listens kind of go down a little bit. So it's definitely in the car. Had a guy, hey, I listen to it while I'm running.
Yeah.
Right. I look forward to every Wednesday.
That one really excited me. He's like, I look forward to every Wednesday. I come home, I grab my AirPods, and I do my walk, and I listen to the podcast.
Yeah, no. So it's good. And what's cool is these started off as a way for Marsha and I to scratch the itch of not being able to get out and see people in person. There's so much energy that comes from talking to pharmacies. Believe it or not, whether with the ones we visit or the ones at trade show.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the conversations that we had them on the trade show floor.
Yeah.
We would visit the pharmacy and learn about what they're doing and that's visiting a pharmacy is how we learned about the Caremark contract.
That was what you were going to say about Serena and
yeah.
And that's what we learned about that, and then went back and did that. So we did the podcast to replace that thing that we needed.
Those interactions.
And so we're enjoying it. Right.
It continues to fuel our passion.
And when there's an enjoyable conversation, a lot of people, if the five of us are, let's say we set 10 people at the bar and we were all having it up, there'd be people in there who would be more listeners than talkers.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing you guys in Kansas City, the NCPA.
Yes.
I'm excited. I
meeting.
can't wait.
Yeah.
Excited about that.
And we're going to have a Catalyst booth there.
Yeah,
so if
you'll
you're
get
listening
to
to Here Deal and you have a hero that you want to recommend to be on the podcast, stop by our booth and
come visit with us.
Tell us about them.
Tell us about what you're doing. Tell us about who inspired you.
We're going to have a big 9-foot
And that was
wide
our-
video wall with Doug's picture on it.
It's so fun.
Yeah, seriously, not my picture.
He's like,
Seriously.
no, don't do it.
You
Oh,
want
God.
people to come to your booth, not scare them away.
That's a question on our next one, Doug. I have for you. Who inspires you the most right now in pharmacy?
Yes.
For the next one, who inspires you the most in pharmacy?
Yeah.
Who should we have next on the Catalyst Pharmacy podcast?
Who should we have who inspires you? Yeah.
Who made Doug?
Or who
Who would
inspires
make
you
you
right
want to
now?
listen?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's thinking.
Jotted it down.
He's
Are you
thinking-
asking me the question?
Yeah.
Tell yeah.
No,
Well, you
that's
can
good.
come by at the
Oh.
Catalyst and deal,
It'll
or
be
you
a
can answer it
cliffhanger
now
for
if you
the
know.
next one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Few people come to mind. So,
He's
all right. Well,
Oh.
thanks again, guys.
Yep.
All right,
It was
hang
fine.
on. We cannot end the episode without our grade. Doug?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. The
He's-
point of this.
He's thinking, oh, the pressure.
The point
Yeah, I'm thinking
of
there's medications
this,
for this.
There's
there's
I mean, really. I mean, I'm not a clinician. I can't diagnose OCD, but it sure walks like one, talks like one.
Yep,
claps
capital
like
O,
one.
capital C,
the
capital
point
D.
of these are for you to hold us accountable and for you to grade us and let us know
I
if
want
we
to
need
do a
to do it better.
highlights video of Doug's facial impression. We asked him about the garage. Doug's facial impression when he put the flashlight up, and Doug's facial impression when we asked him the grade.
Drum roll.
That can be in
Jumble.
our reel. Can be in our reel.
I mean, I gave you a B+ last time, which I thought was a really good grade because, I mean, overall, from what I hear from our members, like I said, they love your system. They say your system is top notch. It's hard for me to give, an A or an A-. So how about an A-?
I'll take it.
Okay, we'll
I'll
take
take
that.
it.
But here's the thing. Now you're going to get hooked on that. And so next time if I give you an A-, again, you're going to be like, oh, we're doing the same.
No,
We're all
I mean, like,
no.
flatlining.
Education
Because
in
There's a
America.
different way to look at that, Doug. There's a totally different way to look at it. Knowing that we're OCD over, you should walk away going, they're going to try so hard to do better.
Yeah, like Kraig said
That's
minutes
what
ago.
we're going to do. We're going to just
You're
try
waving
harder.
that bone, and we want that freaking bone.
Yeah.
And the OCD personalities here are going to strive. And
Doug's
I'm
like,
going
I
to.
didn't realize I had so much power.
And actually,
right.
the last one, the very first one, you gave us a B+. The last one, you gave us a B-.
It's true.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So,
No, it's not.
nope,
I
it is.
just
Yeah, I think
that.
probably because of the support challenges we had.
No, I don't think I gave you guys a B-.
You gave us a B-.
No,
It stuck with
Hey
me.
guys,
It
this is
hurts.
sales 101. We got the A-. Let's move on.
I went back. So I listened to probably 40 minutes of the last podcast, so I didn't get to the end somewhat to avoid. I thought I was able to avoid this conversation by not listening to it, but I didn't give you guys a B-.
You
but-
did.
I heard from
So-
the control room. They said it was a B, not a B-. So he did bump us down from a B+ to a B.
A B for boo is what you guys said.
That is
but
Yes.
exactly right. But that was fair. We went some challenge with support. I think we've improved that. So so back
A-.
to
I think the B should be for bonus for whomever gets to edit this podcast and make this sound more intelligent and shorter.
I think it's awesome. I
Whomever
think
has
it's
to do that, B for bonus. For,
that would be a B for Brandon. So
It is B for Brandon Bruno. He is our chief video and editor.
Yeah.
All
Thanks,
Doug,
everybody.
Thank you so
It was
much.
fun as
Craig,
usual.
thank you for
Hey,
joining
Doug, thanks
us.
a lot.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure. Take care, guys. Thanks.
Thank you for watching the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast.
If you enjoyed today's episode,
Please like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you get your podcast.
Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts to help us reach more pharmacy professionals like you.